We just got a brief rundown of some main components in the Premiere Pro environment. Now that we're a bit more comfortable with where things are and how things act, let's drop back to the beginning and spend this chapter talking all about how we ingest and organize our media. Then, in the next chapter, we'll start in on all things editing. All right, so we are going to be going into our main Topa project a little bit later in this chapter so that we can take advantage of our well-organized assets. But to begin with, we need to start in an empty project so that we can really begin with a blank slate. So you can do this by choosing New Project, which I'll do now. And I'm just going to call this one Topa Demo 2. Okay, so we already had a demo, and now this is our second empty demo project. And I'll say, okay. And here I am inside of my empty project. And in Chapter 2, when I was giving you the basic tour of the environment, we brought our media in a very straightforward manner by just double-clicking here in the project panel, and we brought up a browser to bring in our assets. So if you want to see that in action, check out the second movie in Chapter 2. This time, though, I'd like to show you how to use the media browser instead, which can give you a little bit more flexibility. So I'm going to actually maximize the project panel by pressing tilde, and I'm going to switch over to the media browser. All right, so I want to go into my exercise files folder to find my assets, and I'm actually already there. But if you need to navigate to that, you may need to dig in through an intricate folder hierarchy to find your user folder and then maybe your desktop and so on. Once you find that, you can actually add that to a favorites list so that you can easily access that going forward. So here's my exercise files folder. I'm just going to right-click and choose Add to Favorites. And now up here at the top under Favorites, I can automatically go to that very easily. All right, so inside my exercise files, I have my 3 folders, and specifically inside my media folder, you can see that I have all of my additional folders inside. Now, the cool thing about the media browser, unlike just using traditional import, is that we can see each of the files as little movies. So if I go into B-roll, for example, and my brewery, you can see that here I am in list view, but if I just switch over to icon view here, I get the same capabilities of looking at each of these clips just like I do right inside Premiere, inside my bins. Okay, so I can hover scrub, I can play, press spacebar. Okay, so I have a lot more of a clue of what each of these clips is. Now I can select individual clips by clicking and then command clicking or control clicking on a PC and selecting those individual clips. I can also select a range of clips by shift clicking, like so. And then whatever I select, I can import just those assets. To import these into the project, I would just right-click and choose Import. All right, and so now if I go back over to my project panel, you can see that those clips were brought in. Okay, so you saw how easy that was to bring in individual clips, but I'm going to delete these because I actually want to bring everything in. So I'm going to press delete, and again, that's not deleting the actual media files within my exercise files folder, it's just deleting the clips, which are pointer files, within this project. So let's head back over to the media browser, and then I want to bring in all of my assets. So let's go back a few levels. I'm going to click on my back button here, and again, and I'm at my top folder hierarchy. All right, so we know that inside some of these folders are other folders. For example, inside our interviews are all of our interview subjects. Obviously, we have our categorical bins inside of B-roll. But let's go ahead and just bring in our top-level bins, and all of this folder hierarchy will be maintained when we bring it into the project. So I'm going to right-click and choose Import, and then we'll head over to our project panel. And here are our top-level bins, and of course, inside each of these are the additional bins that we saw at the Finder level. So let's take a look at all of the different types of clips that we can bring in. And I'm going to start by looking in my B-roll bin, and let's go to brewery. Now, most of the clips in here are called movie clips, which means that they contain both video and audio. We know this because the icon next to a movie clip has this lavender-colored film strip with this green waveform, and it's by default represented by this light blue label. If your label category isn't displayed for some reason, you can right-click on the toolbar and choose Metadata Display, and then under Premiere Pro Project Metadata, just make sure that you have label checked. Okay, so right now we have lots of movie clips, and then at the bottom here, I have this video clip. It's video only because it's just a lavender colored film strip with no audio waveform, and the label colored for that is a lavender label. If I double click this to load it into the source monitor, you can see that this plays with no sound. I'll go back to my project panel and maximize by pressing tilde, and I'm going to come into images next. All right, so this is the icon for a still image. You can see that I have both TIFF and JPEG files. And then the label color for that is this lighter pink color. If I go into my music bin, you can see that now I have audio-only clips represented by this green waveform with a green label. So all in all, it's fairly easy to tell what everything is just at a glance. Now, if for any reason you want to manually change a label color, like if you need to separate out a select group of clips visually, you can easily do that. For example, in images, let's say that I want all of my Think Stock photos to be a different label color. So I'll go ahead and click and then shift click, and then I'm going to right click over here in the label column and choose label, and let's make those rows. Okay, so a slightly different color of pink there for my Think Stock photos. Now there is one more type of label and icon that I want to call out, and that is the sequence. So let's just very quickly make a sequence out of some of these clips. I'm going to switch over to my assembly workspace so that I have a little bit more real estate here in my project panel. And let's grab a little bit of each type of clip. So I'll grab, let's see, some of these brewery shots, and I have both video and audio, and then the video only. Now, back in Chapter 2, when we performed basic edits, we first brought this into the source monitor and then marked our shots and then brought it into the timeline. But I do want to show you that you can just drag and drop right from the project panel as well. So I'll go ahead and bring those into the timeline. And you'll see that I have video and audio here on my movie clips, and then I have my video only clip here. And let's bring in a few images. I'll go ahead and bring in some of these TIFFs as well as a couple of Think Stock photos. And you can see here that the label color is maintained. Okay, so if you do the work and set your labels up front, then anytime you edit into the timeline, that's going to follow suit. And then finally, let's just grab our music. This is going to be very long, but that's okay. We're not really editing. We're just looking at the mechanics here. So I'll just drag and drop that down. And remember to fit this within my timeline view. To zoom to fit, I just press \. Now we've made a sequence, so there is a sequence hiding out here in the project panel somewhere. Now I see that it's right here. You can see the sequence icon looks like a bunch of clips, and its label color is green. But if you ever have trouble locating the sequence, you can always just come up to this menu right here within the timeline and choose Reveal Sequence in Project, and then it'll highlight that for me. And I'll go ahead and just rename this Topa Assets Demo, okay? And then I'll bring that out to the main level. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about deleting while we're here. When you delete clips, again, you are not deleting the actual media files, the ones that exist within my exercise files folder. You're just deleting the clips, the pointer files from this project. That said, I would recommend against deleting anything within the main Topa project in this course, because then you'd have to re-import it to get it back. But because we're just in this demo practice project, it's fine for now. So if you delete a clip that does not live in any sequence, it's just going to delete without any problem. All right, so I don't think this one is in a sequence, so I'll go ahead and click on this movie file and press delete, and it's gone. Let me undo that, Command Z. This time, however, I'm going to click on a clip that does exist in a sequence. Okay, so I'll select this clip and press delete. And then I get this warning. It says the selection you are deleting contains clip references in one or more sequences. So if you continue, these clip references will also be deleted. So if I, in fact, delete this, notice that the clip also deletes from the sequence. I'll undo that, Command Z. All right, so I just briefly want to mention one last thing about bringing in your media, and that is the notion of transcoding. Sometimes the media that you import isn't going to be an optimal format to actually edit with. With more and more cameras being capable of shooting 4K and beyond, the file sizes are really extremely large, and Premiere Pro can struggle in performance if you try to work with them directly. So transcoding the files to a different codec can be a great solution. To do that, if I go over to the media browser and I check the ingest button, then what's going to happen is not only are the files going to be imported into my project, but new files will also be created depending on the options that I choose. I can open up my ingest settings by clicking on this wrench, or I can actually pull this up a different location. If I go to File and Project Settings, here are my ingest settings as well. So here are my ingest settings. I'll check ingest, and you can see here that I have several options. If I simply want to transcode the files to a more editable codec, then I can choose transcode, for example. And then under this list, I choose the codec that I want to transcode those files to. Apple ProRes 422, for example, is a terrific editing codec. It looks great and has superior performance. I can also choose to create proxies. And what this is going to do is make very small compressed files that I can edit with and then later relink to my original files. So there are different options for different workflows, but of course, we do not have large files. I had to heavily compress our media to work with this course so you could have a reasonable download size. So I'll uncheck that and hit cancel, okay? But just know that the ingest setting option is available to you when you're working with large files. All right, so now that we're even more familiar with the ways in which to bring in and look at our media, let's keep going.